utilize, their God-given ability to be physical, be cerebral. They played against these players for a long time. They know tendencies, and that's what kind of these games comes down to is knowing the tendencies of your players and actually executing and doing it. And I think, defensively, we're kind of getting back to where we want to be.
And then just obviously your focus is on the game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. But just want to get your thoughts on like this next stretch of 4 games here on just kind of how are you guys going? How are you guys now going into the stretch, and where would you like to be kind of after this 4-game stretch, which seems to be so kind of key as to kind of how you're going to end up at the end of the season?
Yeah, 4 games with 2 opponents. And so there's, a lot that we can take out of this. It's going to be difficult going from a time zone, very short turnaround, but, that's what this league is. That's what this time frame of the season is. And so I want the team to be playing at a high level, first and foremost. Again, it's the wins and losses, yeah, but it's the how right now. How are we approaching the game mentally, physically? How are we playing defense? How are we communicating? How are we playing offense? And that's what I'm looking for because we need to be playing better, especially we understand where we are in the season. And so two very tough opponents who, when we've seen, we beat one and we haven't won against New York yet. So today is going to be a test to see where we are. They're the best in the league. And, it's about coming out and competing and having the correct mindset. I'll start there first. I would like that to happen over the next 4 games.
Coach, you touched on it there, and then you touched on it a lot last game, but with the communication aspect of it, as the coach and as your staff, is there anything you can do to encourage more of that on the court, or is that something that is purely on the players to know that they have to communicate, whether it's offensively, defensively? Is there anything you can do to encourage that, or is it just something they have to own and do?
Yeah, encourage is one thing, but from a coaching standpoint, I think not trying to overcomplicate things is how I can help that. So communication comes or is married to confidence. And so if I can confidently communicate what we're supposed to do, we're in a good pocket. If I'm unsure or uncertain, sometimes the communication is not as sharp. And so overcomplicate doesn't mean having a million schemes on the floor. Overcomplicate, sometimes it's just keeping it simple and allowing the players, yes, structure, we need it. Yes, rules, we need it. Yes, attention to detail and understanding who we're defending. We need that stuff as well, but not overcomplicating things, I believe will help with the communication. Now, as far as them being on the court, I can't help that. I can't physically open their mouths and communicate that, but I think that's where I'm at with the coaching aspect of it, is just allowing them to understand, making sure they understand completely what's going on, and I think give the ball to them and trust that they can communicate at a high level.
And then I know she's not on the availability report. She was late scratch last game. Is Jordan's feel good?
She's ready to go today.
Do you plan to go back to Jordan in the starting lineup?
We'll find out at the 30-minute mark, but she is available today, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about playing them coming off a game where they stumbled a little bit in L.A.?
Not excited about it. Sabrina didn't shoot the 3 at a high level. I know she's going to come out aggressive. Watching that game was very physical. LA did a lot of really great things. They shot the 3 well, too. They were able to get a lot of points in the paint, generate just some good offense. And I know for a fact that New York is not going to be the same New York that we saw on film in LA.
And then one other thing on this stretch, you had a couple of games like against Washington, back-to-back, even though there's some time in between, Atlanta, home and away. Then you've got, 2 in a row against Connecticut, these games in a short period of time against New York. Is there like a playoff prep element to those of kind of the adjustments?
There is. I think today, we were talking as a staff about the things that we would like to do. But then I kind of thought about, seeing them again, and then hopefully potentially seeing them, later in postseason, maybe. So you don't want to lay all your cards out tonight and just kind of see what we execute at a high level and not deviate too far from that in the next time we see them, but also knowing that, we there is a level of chess that's happening because we see him very shortly, and hopefully our number one plan goes well and we don't have to throw out too many other adjustments.
Let's take a question from Zoom. Christian, go ahead with your question.
In the last pregame, I believe, against Atlanta, you said that you'd love to see the potential assist stats. Unfortunately, community members don't have access to stats of that nature. But I went back and kind of hand watched all the passes from these last two games. I came up with around 27 and a half.
Wow.
I was wondering, could you possibly run that out and check to see if you could validate that?
Well, Kevin Felton is here, so we'll cross-reference that with his ability to get those actual stats. But do you understand what I mean with that, right? So there is this semblance of the number on the stat sheet shows 15, but during the game, like you pointed out, when you look at it, there were a lot of opportunities to have assists. There were just missed shots. Those potential assists matter. So I can't analyze a stat sheet at the end of the game and say, oh, we just weren't passing. No, we might have been passing. We just weren't hitting shots. And so that's a stat that is very relevant to us kind of getting better offensively as well.
And with Jordan back tonight, over the last game, I think that was the first game that she's missed since being in the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. Were there any moments throughout the game you're like, well, of course, she's talented and she's great in her second year, but were there any moments where you're like, can really use her here, the defense and offensive end?
Absolutely. Especially thinking about, those stretches of when we had to get stops or having the ability to sub offense, defense, putting her on the floor with Gabby would be such a strong defensive unit. So, she was heavily missed. She's not only impacting what we're doing defensively, but she's been pretty solid, with her finishing around the rim and her playmaking. So she's a talented player, and when she's not with us, it definitely shows.
Cool, and let's wrap up with Percy. Go ahead.
We're at time, sorry. Here, go ahead. Okay, my question.
Are you sure?
Cool. Not really.
What?
It's all right. Go ahead, man. You're the key writer. Go ahead. Matt, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt. Okay. No, I just had a conversation with Jewel and just her approach to the game and the way she goes about it, leading the team in scoring, but also knowing that her percentages aren't quite where she wants them to be. How do you balance that as a coach? Going, maybe this isn't the highest field goal percentage, but you're a scorer. You got to do what you got to do. What are those conversations like, if there are any?
I mean, just that. That's kind of been Jewel her entire career. You know that she's a tough shot taker and maker. You know that there have been stretches where her percentages aren't very high, but you stick with it. A lot of what Jewel does is, her routines that she has. Sometimes she kind of goes and plays pickleball or goes and plays tennis or whatever it is. You can't let the mental aspect of that bog you down, and I think she does a good job of balancing that. And with me, it's just knowing that law of averages is going to come around. You're still going to get the shots, still going to take the shots, still going to find positions on the floor to get her open, and trust that that is going to turn around. And I think it showed the other game.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, no
See you after the
problem.
game.